Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
70,000 people are here, and then Bob Dylan is the reason for it.
Inspired by the true story.
If anyone is going to hold your attention on a stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
And starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan. He defied everyone.
Turn it down!
Play loud!
To change everything.
Make some noise, BD.
Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro. A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Merlyn's Monsters, the behind-the-scenes podcast for Murphy. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been a while.
Yeah. I'm Alex, and I'm here with Annie, Derek, and Drew, and we're going to be discussing Season 1, Episode 6. Oh yeah, Dennis is also here, but he's just silent. But that's okay.
Off mic.
He's off mic today.
He's our silent protector. What else did they say in The Dark Knight? Anyway.
So yeah, I mean, it's been several months since the last Merlyn's Monsters. We talked a little bit about our process, and at the time we were discussing like Season 2 and what was going into that. And now Season 2's out, and for all of you to, well, the first episode's out, but you can all enjoy it. And we're really happy.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. But we're going to take it back a little bit. We're going to go to the finale of Season 1. Alrighty. So yeah, so just a quick recap, I guess. I mean, if you've binged the season and then you're just kind of like hanging out at this point. They got to Scotland, saw some pretty cool stuff. Jack kind of had this massive realization about himself.
What a fun way to say mental breakdown.
Yeah.
In the rain, standing on like a dirt road, just silently like going insane. Poor guy.
Oh yeah. We met a really cool character named Magnus. Another cool character, but like kind of a dick. Alistair.
Oh yeah. Man. I thought you were talking about Magnus still, and I was like, yeah, I can see that.
Well, all right.
I mean, he's like an old curmudgeon who's just like kind of doing his own thing.
A what?
Curmudgeon.
What's that?
Like an older sort of crotchety, like, get out of my lawn type guy.
Get out of my lawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard that word before. No.
I've never heard
Read
of
a book,
curmudgeon.
Alex.
It's an upstate thing. It's regional dialect.
It is not.
Okay.
It's a regional
It's a regional
I'm pretty sure it's an English
word. Probably.
It is.
Steamed hams.
Yeah,
Steamed hams.
Anyway, I mean, like, it was a really awesome way to end the season and kind of, like, answer a lot of questions, but also raise a ton more. I mean, Jack also faces his fear of water in this and dives down to retrieve the stone, which I don't think did we talk about what the stone was called in episode 6, or was it?
Yes. Nessie called it the Stone of Caliburn.
Right. So Stone of Caliburn. Ooh. And Jack's given a question. We'll get more of that. More on that later. We meet Nessie. And I mean, it's just like an awesome, like, I don't know, I love the finale so much, and I think it does such a great job of tying everything together, leading us into what's to come, and all of that. And Drew, just like fantastic work for what you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with my questions. What was the most exciting part about writing episode 6?
Well, I don't know if you call it exciting or if you call it like fear, but for those of you who don't know, I believe I was the last one to join the writing team, if I remember correctly. And then Alex was like, "We're gonna give you the finale." Huh? What? Yeah, you're gonna write the finale. Sweet, I love it. But no, it was very exciting to go over like all of the questions that had been kind of like hanging over the entire season. It was really nice to, on one hand, be really be able to like bring it all together, but on the other hand, it's just like, all right, that answers one question, yet raises so many others. Like, it's my little bit of it's very good. I do think, though, the most exciting bit was just developing Magnus as a character. Magnus is one of my favorite characters I've ever written. Like, he's so fun, and yeah. So I would probably say writing Magnus, just in general.
Wow. Aw. Yeah, Magnus is awesome. I love getting to meet him and like learning just a little bit more about Murphy's past, but also about Parliament, which we don't really talk too much about in episode 6, but it's brought up, and like Magnus's history with the Court of the Veiled and everything. Super cool. And I mean, I think we shout Addie out every single time
because they're so damn good at what they do.
But Magnus was one of the characters that Addie kind of just like made the voice themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to like talk a little bit about that too?
My initial like idea for like who Magnus was as a character was definitely a Scotsman. Kind of the same sort of vein as like a you know a crotchety old Scotsman who's retired, doesn't want anything to do with anybody. And then during our initial workshops, I remember Addie messaged me and was just like, "Can I try something like completely out of the box with this character?" And I said, "Yeah." And they were like, "What if we tried something more like Caribbean?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, go for it. I will never say no to if you want to try something." And Addie took it and ran with it and completely like rewrote the entire history I had for like just in mind for this character, which is not a bad thing. It was like, sweet, this is way better than what I had in mind. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was really interesting during the initial recordings where Addie was like, "Okay, I need to remember this character. Like, what does this character sound like?" And then I think we played back a couple of like pre-records for them, and they were like, "Got it," and then took it and ran with it. It was awesome. Hi, Addie.
Yes, Addie, if you're listening, we love you. I mean, well, Addie also returned as Magnus for one of the snippets that we also have out now, and you should listen to.
Any Port in a Storm, written by me.
Exactly, yeah. And it was just, like, awesome to hear that again. And Addie plays a whole bunch of awesome characters in season 2, too. So you'll definitely be hearing more about them, more from them, and about them from us. So
I would love to know what kind of research you had to do other than, like, obviously with the character of Magnus, but also just generally what kind of research did you have to do when you were writing the episode in general?
Ooh, that's a really good question, actually. The Loch Ness Monster was one of my favorite, like, folkloric creatures that since I was a kid. But I never, like, really went in depth about it. So I...
This is me tendering my resignation.
But no, I actually did a lot of research into... like when first reports and sightings of a sea-like creature seen in Loch Ness was ever recorded, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was like this really old like writing by, I believe, a monk, like way back in like the 1400s, I think, where he was out on a boat in Loch Ness, and there was this creature that he wrote down that was like speeding towards them, and then I think he did like the sign of the cross, or he said some sort of prayer or something, and that made the creature just like turn away. And it was just interesting to think of, okay, what if like it's always been one creature? What if Nessie has been one thing that has existed for hundreds and hundreds of years? And then I thought about, okay, what would have caused them to have lived such a long life? Is it because, she's just, her biology is different and she has just a longer lifespan, or is it something else? And that kind of put me in the idea of like, okay, maybe this stone has some sort of qualities that can maybe prolong life or something like that. And so that's really kind of how I got the ball rolling on that. And the other big thing that I had to look at was just how how terribly difficult it is to see in Loch Ness. Like, under the water, it is horrible. Like, I've looked at, like, I had to watch a bunch of, like, divers go underwater. You really could not see more than 5 feet past your own face, as Murphy says. Like, and that kind of, like, gave credence to, you know, all the mystery behind Nessie, like sightings, questions. Is it real? Is it not? Like, it's absolutely fascinating. And then all the tunnels in Loch Ness, too, like, underneath that just naturally forming, like, tunnels. It's crazy. Like, I think there's some tunnel that I read about where it, like, if you follow it enough, it, like, leads out into the sea or something like that. I can't remember the whole thing, but man, yeah, it's crazy. Loch Ness is spooky. It's really crazy.
Oh, man.
That's something I was going to add on a bit to what you were saying, because I also love Loch Ness. Like, when I was a kid, I used to watch, like, on Animal Planet or, like, Discovery Channel, all that stuff. And I think what's really well done in the episode is how we get to see how dangerous also diving into Loch Ness is. I know that that's a big factor too, as to why, you know, people are like, oh, why isn't there concrete proof or something like that? I don't think it's fully been explored because of how complex it is and how dangerous it is to actually dive in. So I think that was really well done as well in the episode.
Thank you. It was very, very fun to write about, like, because that's the other thing too. Like, one reason she hasn't been found, that, you know, that she hasn't been seen in so long, you know, in the way that I wrote it, was because Magnus essentially locked her away, like you know, not keeping her a prisoner, but like I'm gonna keep you secret. I'm gonna keep this stone secret. Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Well, that's also interesting because Murphy even says in episode 5, like, no one's seen Nessie before, like, even to people in Parliament, like all those agents and stuff, she's a myth. Like, she just doesn't exist. And, like, I don't know. So it is also, like, I don't know. I think playing with that also in our journey of writing this show has been really fun, because it's like, what do people in Parliament consider, like, we have factual evidence and, like, research on these creatures, versus, like, what they just don't know and what they haven't either discovered or is just, like, not there. It's so fun. And that's, I think, also another thing I love about the show. Oh, well, that's also kind of like, it ties into, you know, Murphy getting fucking injured.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, she really does get her shit rocked, doesn't she?
Girls not having a
forgot
good
I
time.
did that.
Yeah, and because she's like, it's like so unsafe down there and everything, like, you know, when you were talking about how dirty and, like, gross, and not dirty and gross, but, like, murky it is, I was like, and like, oh, you can't see anything. I'm like, hee, I'm terrified now.
Good. That's kind of what I wanted, is like, you know, just like oh my God, I'm swimming through something that I can't even see what's coming up next. Like,
See, this is why I tell people open water when I talk about my fear of open water, because Loch Ness. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Also, the thing with Jack being able to swim through the currents and everything, that actually was like a way later addition, because the whole thing with the insomniac elixir, I wrote that in as sort of like, initially it was just like, this would be funny if he just came out, both of them were like kind of tired, and he just came out fucking going, like, all right, let's go do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. And like, I was like, haha, that's funny. And then a few drafts later, I was like, wait, I can use this. I can make this make sense for him to, like, get through this, essentially this wall of like forceful waters that make you not able to swim any further because you just get tired. Yeah. And like, that's his whole thing of like, after drinking that, it was like, okay, I'm not tired. Wow. Okay. I suppose this works.
Do we, as like, because I know what triggers Jack's like flashback and everything, it was the bracelet, but do we think as like a writer's room that the insomniac elixir also had something to do with that too?
When I was listening back today, actually, I thought of that, for a second because I actually sat with it for a moment. I'm like, what was the trigger for Jack? I was like, we've discussed it before, but as a listener, I was like, the first connection I did initially make was the insomniac elixir. Yeah, I don't know. And I thought that mixed in maybe with how Jack, we all know that Jack had been not susceptible to monster effects and things like that. So I wonder if it was another sort of elixir in his system that mixed in with the one that was originally put into him back at the pond. Maybe those crossings is what kind of created a chain reaction. I don't know. That was something I got when listening.
I hadn't thought of that, but that actually makes a ton of sense. I think that would definitely be like a secondary trigger. Like the first trigger absolutely is the bracelet. I think the thing that could probably have like sort of opened that sort of like avenue essentially for being triggered by the bracelet would probably have been, makes sense, that was the insomniac elixir.
I love how we're still theorizing things.
It's great, isn't it? Like there's a lot of stuff that like we won't even, that like a lot of like background lore that we haven't heard yet, and there's some that probably will never see the light of day, but it's just, yeah, but there's also some that we're like, how did that work?
It's just, it's just fun to think about sometimes,
One thing also that I think is interesting with all of that, while we're on the topic of Jack remembering and what triggers him and things like that, is it's also really well done how sometimes like the brain locks away a memory, right? When you have trauma. And sometimes you even forget things happen again, like that amnesia, and it could be from that effect. But I think like it all works so cleverly together. Probably his PTSD from that day, or probably, just locking away a traumatic memory. And then just remembering it out of the blue is also just kind of how it works sometimes. Especially Jack went through on this season of like opening up a lot more. And that's also adhering to maybe he's just opening as a person, and that, allowed him to be able to process that, and maybe he couldn't process it before. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, all it takes is one little crack in the dam, and sometimes it just all spills back.
Ain't it fun?
Amnesia was another interesting thing that I had to research, because amnesia has definitely been used as like in things written before, obviously, but it's never been like super, at least in my research, been like super accurate, because it takes time to like really start to remember memories. So like in episode 6, when he remembers all that stuff, it's sort of like small little things that have been building and building and building and building and building, and it just takes like one little thing to make it all just sort of be like spill in. Like it's just interesting.
Oh yeah,
very interesting.
'Twas the nights before Christmas. Despite last-minute stress, few were delivering except Walmart Express.
Stockings were hung by the fire with care, knowing in about an hour stuffers would soon be there.
On to the road, Walmart Express delivery went. Chock full of wondrous things in the St. Nick of time sent. Let's go!
Get express delivery in as fast as an hour, even on Christmas Eve.
Orders must be placed by 4 p.m. local time on 12/24. Subject to availability. Fees and restrictions apply.
Express delivery to y'all, and to all a good night. Welcome to your Walmart.
This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
Let's actually talk more about that moment with Jack and like what happened in the booth that day, because
about how you and I cried.
Yes. Oh my God. When we recorded that with Dan took a lot of liberty with that, which we were both very, very happy about. And so he did a fantastic job, as he always does. But he said, he's like, can I try something? And him echoing his like past self, like the younger version of him, that was a choice that Dan made. That we were just like, first of all, when we record this stuff, as you can imagine, as you know, it's literally just like the one actor in front of a microphone, and it's silent. And Dan went through this whole thing and just going through that like really shuddering breath and like putting his whole like back into it, basically. And Drew and I were just like, I was like a single tear.
I remember you covered your mouth too. You were crying, and I was just like, oh my freaking God.
I think like also, you know, even though it wasn't my episode, like this is a character that like I had like, it was my brainchild, and like watching them go through this experience and watching Dan bring it to life, it was just so like, it made my heart like hurt, but it was also really fulfilling, I guess. And yeah, no, it was such a fantastic thing, and I'm really happy. Like, I love when the actors come in and they're like, "Can I try this?" And if it doesn't work, like, whatever. And we're more than like 9 times out of 10 like, yes, please do it. But yeah, no, that was honestly just like a super cool moment. And I think we mentioned this in like a few other Merlyn's Monsters, where I was like, there's a moment where Dan made me cry.
This is that moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember when we were talking about
exactly.
Remember when we were talking about how this episode answers so many questions? That's one of the questions, dear listeners.
That's true.
That got tied up.
and like, you know, like we're hearing so much about like Jack's fear of the water, and like why does he, and we hear the like snippets of the dreams he's having and the memories of like Murphy and everything, and like how she's connected to all of this, and oh my God, it's just so good.
That was also interesting going back through the season when I was writing that scene of being like, okay, what has been said to him in a snippet of a dream? Where can I fit that into this? Like the Jack, I'm sorry. I was like, okay, where can this go? Where can this go that it makes sense? And I mean, it worked. She's sorry she pushed him in.
Another thing is that we also finally get introduced to Murphy's parents.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
right. So that was fun to write about.
Tell us more about that.
Oh, God. I think you and I went very in tandem with that, Alex. we were like, I was like, okay, real quick, give me the elevator pitch on Murphy's parents. And so they're both scientists. They're both very reactionary in times of crisis. And especially since they were already in Scotland. Was it Scotland or was it England?
Ireland, actually.
It was in Ireland.
They were in Ireland.
Do not call Ireland England.
No, absolutely
they do
not.
like that.
No, that's because we're not fucking England. Fucking.
But actually, I want to talk on that real quickly. Like, it is like they were on vacation in Ireland when this like whole thing went down. I think it's Jack's parents that have the house out there. Yeah, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna just go to Ireland for a few days. Murphys, you want to come with us? Like that's how, to talk on their relationship, like they were very, very close, the Murphys and the Sherwoods, and like close enough that they would go on like family vacations together. I think that although this happened to be the one and only vacation they ever went on together, but Murphy and her parents lived in Yorkshire for a significant amount of time, and like grew up, Murphy grew up like with Jack, and you know they were very close and all that stuff, and like it was just like a very sweet childhood friendship, you know, until it wasn't. But anyway, but yeah, Murphy's parents.
Because they were out there working on the serum. I was like, okay, if they're out there working on this, yeah, I think their initial like immediate reaction would be to test it. For a couple reasons. On the surface, it'd be like, we have to save his life. But also, it's like, I want to see if this works. I want to see how well this works if it does work. And if he survives, that's great. If he doesn't, well, it didn't work.
and like Lucas coming into the booth and recording it, and he was like, I don't remember. Did you ask Lucas, like, okay, find in the script where Tom stops being a father and starts being a scientist?
Yeah, I did. I do remember that. He found the perfect spot, too.
Oh, yeah. And Lucas did such an excellent job, like, really, like, honing in on it. And, like, like, thinking about it and thinking about, like, everything else. Oh, my God. When Dan and Emma recorded the scene where Murphy's like talking about how her parents are dead, and like she was like chasing a theory this entire time, and like she's just like, I have come up with so many dead ends. And they share this really, really sweet moment together that like I was just like loving. And Jack, Jack, you know, it was just so like sweet and very tender. And I think it just got me like a little emotional seeing that, because it just also felt like a very fulfilling moment of like bringing them closer together after all of this time. And like Murphy really starting, we see the cracks in like her psyche a little bit, where she's like feeling a little guilty, but like we don't know why she's so guilty yet. And then when Jack finds everything out and he like loses it a little bit, you know, there's so much emotion there. And yeah, no, I actually do remember getting a little teary-eyed, and just because I think I was just so happy about it, you know. I
remember after when we were recording the scene after Jack's freak out at Murphy and everything. I remember I asked him, I was like, okay, so you've just left the house, you're standing on the porch. What is the first thing on your mind? And he went, bitch. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh my God. That sounds like a very Dan thing.
I remember I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, no, seriously, like he's pissed. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that, rightfully so.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because she had every opportunity to be like, by the way. But she didn't. And I think like, you know, recognizing that as well, of like, she's like, I don't want to hurt you further, but by not saying anything, she's still continuing to like, you know,
it's also shows that she's like scared to like, because I think like one of the reasons she says that she didn't tell him was because she didn't want to lose him, like and she was afraid that he would just never talk to her again, essentially. Which, I mean, has some merit, because that's what happened to her parents and Jack's parents, is that they never spoke after that. Should you have told him sooner? Yeah, probably.
No, yeah. Oh my God. This episode also, in a way, just talking about it, it's such a wonderful end, right? To not an end, because characters are always developing, right? But I feel like for Jack, like such a wonderful full circle moment and a nice little peek appetizer into what's to come. As I hope everyone has listened to thus by now. Just kind of the next season. Like I feel like this episode set things up very well for season 2 and what was to come and what themes were going to play out. Us getting a peek into Parliament, getting a peek into the cracks of Murphy and everything. So it's, I don't know. It's just a very well done meal, essentially.
Really
To be honest, like I was thinking about that when listening. I'm like, wow, this really sets everything up so well for what's to come. So yeah.
You were promised a meal. This is food for thought with.
Hey. Also, kind of like going off of that and going back a little bit, writing Elliot as the one who like slapped some sense into Murphy, but I think both of them as well, was very much like, that was so much fun to write. Because as I don't know about you guys, but as I read over like season 1 and everything, I wanted to be like, someone say something to them. And then in episode 6, I was like, all right, we're going to say something to them.
You're the one who makes him say something.
Yes. I was like, let's do this then.
Well, I mean, we do, you know, that's the first time we see Elliot as like this really serious character. And like, even though it's a small moment, you know, he's the one who's like, great, now I have to be the adult in this room, basically.
I don't want to be the adult.
but not in a way that's like, I don't know, because I think he just kind of like has a maturity to him that we don't see very often, and we haven't seen up until that moment where he tells Murphy like, hey, I think you
definitely
suck.
Messed
like,
up. Yeah. Dude, you suck.
Something that you have to remember is that, like, we see Jack as, like, the serious detective and everything, but Elliot was a detective even before him.
That's true.
And we don't really get to see what happens when Elliot, like, hones down and just, like, focuses on, like, what has to be done.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think once he actually is just, like, sit down, I'm like, oh, okay.
And like you've heard in the trailer, so it's not this isn't like a total spoiler, but we are going to get a serious side of Elliot in season 2.
That was fun to explore.
Oh, it was so much fun. I'm so excited. I know we're going to do an even deeper dive into episode 1 of season 2 next time around.
Just generally listen to things in release order.
Generally, yes.
This is a PSA.
Definitely, if you haven't listened to season 2, episode 1 yet, do that and then come back and listen to the rest of this.
Pause the podcast right now.
Yeah. And kind of also to talk about like something else carried over, a few things carried over from the finale of season 1. Number 1 being the stone of Caliburn and how Jack is gifted the stone from Nessie and what he ended up asking the stone. And Jack being like, are Murphy's parents still alive? And we got this vague answer. We got another riddle. And yeah, that was fun.
That was very fun to write. Because I remember when, after Dan, like, I think when he first or second time he read over that scene, he looked at us and he went, so what is the answer? And we were like, well, we won't find out. And he went, are you kidding me? Actually, no, I also remember that after he read he was like, I have one question. This is it. I could find everything out. And then he asked that question. He went, you dumb fuck.
Well, that's why there's a second season.
Yeah.
Because Jack is a moron.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart. He doesn't do things for himself, which is good to a point. And then he's like, all right, dude, you fucking put yourself first sometimes, my guy.
So let's talk about that riddle that the stone... Nessie said? Was it the stone? It was Nessie who
I believe it was Nessie who said it. Yes.
She's the one who like translates the stone. But the riddle, does anybody here remember it? Within their life's work, their fate is sealed with yours, but their first must face their last and walk into the present through the crucibles of her past.
It is very interesting because, like, when the riddle says, like, yours, they're talking to Jack, which is... Can't wait till you guys find out. It's so good. I can't wait.
It's just...
Yeah, what she said.
I love season 2.
Oh yeah, we're just buzzing and so excited and just so happy with how everything turned out. And it's just like, you know, it's hard. I know it's hard to just talk about episode 6 because I feel like there's so much that carries over in episode 1. Again, we're going to do a deeper dive, but like...
Below the murky depths.
Below the murky depths, yes.
Below the murky depths into...
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
Designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
Windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying... Just beautiful...
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
The holidays are back at Starbucks, and there's so much to share. With classics like Caramel Brulee Latte, Peppermint Mocha, and Chestnut Praline Latte, we're celebrating everyone's flavor of festivity. Order yours in the app.
I have one last question. I don't know if anybody else has. What are some things that influenced the writing of episode 6?
One of the things that like really helped me sort of like I always like have like the plot and everything sort of outlined, but when I get right down into like what really gets me into the nitty gritty of an episode is a side character, and I always like the and Alex, you can attest to the fear of the unknown of the sea and of water, and that's one of the things I like to write most is like sort of like a not like a horror, like, you know, things that will make you feel terrible afterwards, but I do like writing in a sort of like creepy ambiance to you know, a story. And that sort of like fear of the unknown, and not only that, but also facing your fears. Like that's one of the things I really, really wanted was to have Jack look at the water, look at his greatest fear in life and to jump in anyway. Like that is very powerful in that. And I really wanted him to have that moment, which is why it was so like built up of all these memories of, you know, throughout the entire season, of things he remembers being said, of horrors he's witnessed, of, you know, of support that he's heard as well. And just to be like, I'm going to do this thing that scares me. And so that was a huge thing of like facing something that you're scared of. And even though you're having a horrible time while it's happening, that eventually the horrible thing will end and you will get back to somewhere that is okay, that is safe, that is the boat, that has your friends, that has a place of safety. And then you get half a dozen guns shoved in your face by a British twit named Alastair Myers.
Another great Anton Correa character as well.
Love it.
That facing the fears moment, I remember that was one of the things that I was like, Jack needs to be in the water at the end of this season, which is just like so awesome.
And he needed to make the choice too, because I remember thinking like, you know, okay, so Murphy can't do it because she just had her ribs smashed. Then I was like, okay, Magnus won't do it because he is not, like, he's invested, but he's not, it's not his thing. And I was like, why can't Elliot do it? I really can't think of a reason why Elliot wouldn't do it. And so I thought, oh, because Jack won't let him. Because Jack makes his own decision of being like, I have this way out of, I don't have to do this. Elliot can. But he chooses the harder route. And he makes that decision. Yeah, it was very fun. Very fun to write.
Sometimes choosing the harder route is like, I don't know, like, that's what you have to do sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's scary, you know? And I think that's like that's a big theme of the show too. It's just like, fearing the unknown, but also facing your fears and like learning that the unknown isn't so scary in the first place. It's just understanding it.
Yeah. And sailing through the terrible storm, it's quicker than going around it. It'll suck, but it's quicker.
I feel like that's an Odyssey reference.
It's actually not, believe it or not, although very, very good, very good looking out.
You're welcome. Yes. Oh, more about Alastair, yeah, and like his history with Magnus and all of that too.
Oh, Alastair, my favorite pyromaniac. Yeah, my favorite little firefly. He's fantastic. He is such a dick. like I love writing a character. I love writing these like in-depth, like really cool characters. I also just like writing characters that are just asses. Like, and that's kind of what Alastair is. Alastair and Magnus, they very much go hand in hand. Alastair is one who has always been like, I need to be better than other people. Like, I need to show everyone that I need to be better, and I need to show everyone that I'm better. And so I think we released it in his case file as well, that one of his things was that he saw Magnus and he saw a challenge. He saw someone that he wanted to best. He saw someone he wanted to be better than. Because Magnus had this reputation of being a legend, you know, being like well-respected, this well-known man. And Alastair was like, I can do better. And yeah, so he's and he doesn't, it doesn't matter how much he wants to, like how he gets to being better than Magnus. He's just gonna be better, which is really sad. Like if you like kind of like pick that apart, but at the same time, it's like petty.
His ambition, like really driving him to the point where it's all he's focusing on is just, yeah. Oh God, love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like he also like definitely holds grudges. He's
no.
Yeah,
really?
He definitely holds grudges. Well, I mean, his broken jaw and his now crooked smile gets pointed out, and that really like sets him off of just being like this, I'm the cat and I'm playing with the mouse, to being like, all right, I'm gonna fucking rip you apart now. How dare you? Yeah, writing Alastair was a lot of fun. Just a asshole.
Incredible. Well, with that being said, you know, I just think that it's hard to pick like a favorite episode of the show, but I mean, episode 6 is definitely in like my top because it's just such a wonderful thing. I'm also like a huge, much like you, Annie, a huge fan of like Loch Ness and like the Loch Ness Monster and everything, and getting to explore it and have it a part of this show is just like so like great and like wonderful for me. And I don't know, it was just like also the way it came together, the way you wrote it, and just like it was so wonderful, Drew. And like I'm just really proud of you.
Thank you. Goodness gracious. I appreciate that.
Of course. So for season 2, now that you've all heard episode 1.
And if you haven't, pause the podcast right now.
Like, what are you doing?
Now that you've heard episode 1, you kind of know what we're in for the rest of the season. And we absolutely know. We talk a lot about like Parliament introduced, like we are in Parliament and all of that. We meet some really awesome characters in this season with Aiden and Halfitch. And we you know, Murphy's in her head for a lot of it. And she talks a lot about like not talking to Jack for all that time. And now they're in the States and they have to do this thing. A lot of tension. But besides all of that, what are all of you excited for season 2? As like spoilerless as possible, but like I think you can talk like I feel like you have a little bit of freedom, but like out of context.
If I have to bleep it out, I will.
I am excited for a lot of character growth, a lot of character development. There is a lot of characters discovering things about themselves and just also becoming, I don't know, more adjusted to this world. That's something I love. And also, never mind, I cannot say that. I cannot say that. I will put a pin on that for when we do Merlyn's Monsters episode finale, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Just a lot of character growth, a lot of character development that is coming your way this season. Be prepared. I love it. I love characters. I say this every single time. So yeah.
No, I'm gonna agree with all that. I know it's very vague, but it's true.
Something that I'm looking forward to is that it's longer. It's a longer season. We have more episodes than last season, so we get a lot more opportunity to get into the nitty gritty of what's going to happen, and there is a lot that's going to happen, and just all of the places we're going to go. How much can I say about it?
Well,
we've already talked about the fact that it's like a journey from one side or the other.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of ground to cover there and a lot of creatures in between point A and point B. There's one in particular I'm especially excited about, and you will know when you hear it for sure. But there's just so much that I feel like we're getting a lot more detail this time as well. I know that like setting up season 1, we were still kind of figuring out what we were doing and how far this was going to go in terms of the world we were creating. But I think we have a lot more solid ground in terms of what we know now, and getting to expound on that I think is going to be really rewarding, not just for us but for listeners as well. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm very excited to delve more deeply into, like, we've already gone over, like, you know, obvious folklore throughout Europe and everything. It's really like, I am loving the sort of like folkloric aspects of what we're going to delve into when we're in the United States, and, you know, and how they fit into the narrative. Like, why is this important? What is this important about? How does Parliament view this? How does Parliament view, you know, this thing that has never happened before, or maybe this thing that has always happened? Like, it's very, very exciting to view that. And also, y'all know I love characters. I love all the side characters we meet this season. I'm very excited for everyone to meet them. It's gonna be so good.
Oh yeah, I think I'm most excited for everyone to meet the new characters that we have and really get to know, because we've already met Aiden and Halfitch, but we also have so many others to meet this season. There's one character in a later episode that I wrote that I'm really excited for everyone to meet, and just like the circumstances. That episode was a challenge, and I'll get there, but it was also just like so much fun. And oh gosh, I think, yeah, I mean, the character development that everybody goes through, the creatures that we see and like how they tie into everything, and the places that we go, you know, like it really is like rich. The US is rich with like all of these stories and everything, and how they were passed down, and like all of that, and where they originate. It was just so fun to dive in there. And there was stuff that we wanted to explore that we just didn't have time for, which is so like crazy to me, that it's like, oh, we could have done X, but like we just couldn't fit it into everything. And like, but what we have, I think, is like a really great like charcuterie board of like the ones, you know, the popular ones, and then the not so like well-known things, and just like legends and things, which all makes it so Murphy. So I'm excited about all of it. I'm excited for people to hear. You know, I think I said this before. I don't remember if I did, but season 2 is very Murphy focused, whereas season 1 was very Jack focused. So we learned more about her and her upbringing and like everything with that, and why she is the way she is. And it's just getting into that was fun. And I think I'm excited for everyone to hear all of that as well.
Another thing I'm excited about that I've just thought about is how we're going to defy expectations with, like, there are a lot of surprises this season, a lot of things that even when we were thinking about it and we were writing them down, we're like, oh my God, you know? There's going to be a lot of tone shifts. There's going to be a lot of like jaw drop moments, and just like, I'm so excited to start talking to people about it when we finally do get to those moments, because I've been sitting on it for far too long, and I really just need to let it out, you know? So
oh God,
I'm so looking forward to just how many times we're gonna get all caps texts being like, what the fuck?
No, it's so true, because it's been a long time coming. Season 2, we've been working on season 2 for a long time.
At least a year and a half.
Yeah. And like by the time everything's released, it's going to be like, you know, way longer than that. But still, like, it's still like, oh my God, I'm so excited.
Another thought that I had kind of as, I don't know, this has been the theme when I've thought of when writing it and being in the room with everyone when we discuss all the episodes for season 2 is the idea of, I always think about that line that we had Murphy say, and we put it actually in the auditions for Murphy, where it's like monster. I never really liked that word, monster. And that's just kind of season 2. I think you really see what a monster actually is.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's, you can take that as literal as you want. But I think the idea, the overarching kind of like story of, or theme of what a monster actually is. I think that was something, at least for me, I was like carrying throughout the season, like in terms of what, oh God, what that all is. Again, a lot of interesting character moments to come. So.
100% agree. Oh my God. None of you heard this yet. The sound design for season 2 is going to be excellent.
But we already knew that.
Oh yeah, of course. But like, there's so much more to play around with that I think Dennis is also really excited to play with.
Drew's also heard a bit from his episode. So
I haven't. It makes me so happy.
But like, I'm talking about stuff besides that, that as we get deeper into the season, and like, I'm excited for that as well. And yeah. Wow. Any last thoughts from anybody about anything Murphy related? To specify that.
Y'all are not ready.
I'm so excited.
It's gonna be so good, y'all. Like, very, very much so.
So much fun, if that's the word.
Oh my god. Alrighty. Well, I guess this concludes this episode of Merlyn's Monsters, but thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for episode releases and updates. We will have more snickets coming your way. Wait a minute. We never really talked about the snickets. But basically, so like just to give you a recap of that, is that we are incorporating these like mini bite-sized episodes of these characters we don't usually hear from. So like Magnus, for example, and Marius, and we're so excited for like the rest of them to come out because they're just going to be a lot of fun, and it's also more material to learn a little bit more about these characters.
Plug some holes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Answer some questions.
And it's just like it's awesome to also keep working with our wonderful cast because they're great.
Yeah,
they're all so great.
They're really good. I love them all.
Yeah. So the snickets, and I think that's it. And yeah, we'll see you in season 2.
See you in season 2, y'all.
See ya.
Ghostly Muse Productions.